Riven Isles, Chapter 3, Part 2. It would be obvious to state that I had never expected to be on the docks of Lilton East the day after my mother's murder. I still feel guilty, for I haven't cried yet, and I can't place why it is that I feel little desire to. Is this unnatural? Is this wrong of me? Am I inhuman? Cornelius Oswald, I have discovered, has always had a thirst for adventure, but ne'er a reason nor a place to go. Eager as a dog for a meal, he drags us all along. The fish people share his excitement. This was their idea, after all. Dr. Oswald drank the seer's translated prophecy like a connoisseur drinks the finest wine. I haven't made protest to the rush to adventure, for I'm not adverse to it. A breath of fresh air, no longer limited to the pine-scented Amity breeze, will be good for me. What's more, I'd like to see what's so great about this island and its X-marked treasure, so great that it invited death to my doorstep. Late afternoon it is as we step into the office of Lilton East's chief harbor master. The man, decked in a powdered wig different to Dr. Oswald's, welcomes us genially. He offers for us to sit. Dr. Oswald and Simon take the 2 chairs before the harbor master's desk. The fish people take a bench along the back wall. Unwilling to sit with them and their odor, I hover beside the doctor. The harbor master introduces himself and shakes hands with the doctor and the professor. His naval prowess glistens on his blue coat's lapels in the form of badges. A Medal of Honor I recognize. The others I do not know. Harbor Master Quince inquires as to what he can help us with, and Dr. Oswald begins. He says nothing of the seer. He says nothing of the map. He asks, very plainly, where he might purchase a ship, hire a captain and a crew, and so forth go about organizing an expedition. "Are you sure you want to look into buying a ship?" questions Harbor Master Quince. "I have a number of captains with ships of their own in port now that you can hire." "That sounds splendid, sir." "Excellent. I'll just ask you a few questions to narrow down your options." "Please, go ahead." Quince pulls out a thick binder, labeled with a neat tag reading, "Captain's Inn." "Is your expedition one way or return?" "Return." "Where are you headed?" "There is a ring of stone in the middle of the sea that we wish to study." The harbor master frowns. "I see." His brows knit together, and he takes the spectacles from his nose. "I believe I know the place. There is no land or port anywhere near the Giant's Ring." "Which captains will be willing to take us there?" Dr. Oswald asks, unaffected. "None with their own ships, sir, I can tell you that. Many ships, many fine vessels, have been lost that way. Treacherous, mysterious waters they are. The superstitious captains wouldn't brave it for any fortune. That limits you to—" Quince returns his eyeglasses to their perch and squints at the second page in his binder, running his finger over the dried ink. "4 currently in. Captain Walker should make a berth within the week, and I'm sure he would be willing to take your job as well." "May I see the 4 available?" "You may." The harbor master flips through the binder. Individually, he pulls out 4 pieces of paper from different places among the bulk of sheets. I peer over. In bold at the top of each page is a name: Captains William Noble, Argus Matterson, Samuel Wicker, and, set timidly off to the side, Hank Clark. "These 3, Quince lays his hand over the first of the papers, are your most conventional options. Noble is a young and new captain in the Navy. He is up for anything, and has a sharp instinct at sea. He doesn't charge a large sum. Matteson is a retired naval commodore, from the Windsor Coast branch of His Majesty's Royal Navy of Brador, and knows more about the sea than any current officer in his employ. An upstanding gentleman, too. He smooths out the next page. Samuel Wicker is a self-taught sailor, but I'd give him a review as good as any Navy man. He's got an aptitude for command, and has, under his own employ, brought an account of... He pauses to read the paper. 3 full crews of pirates. 46 men altogether, all hanged. Dr. Oswald picks up Argus Matterson's review paper. Simon reaches for Samuel Wicker's. I frown. What about Clark? There is a pause, where the silence in the room rings clear as a bell. The doctor and Professor read, and I wait. The harbour master draws the page nearer himself, almost guilty. Captain Clark is the most courageous sailor I've ever known, and is beyond qualified for navigating dangerous waters. In fact, Clark requested to be hired for this exact voyage to the Giant's Ring. Simon and Dr. Oswald both lower their reviews and expectantly wait for the man to continue. But you seem like conventional gentlemen, and though he is a fine sailor and a fine gentleman, he can be a wild card too. Great reviews, don't get me wrong, but he's a free spirit. When he takes command, he takes command. Doesn't sound bad to me, says Dr. Oswald. If he requested to sail to the ring, I think he's a very good option indeed, I reckon. Captain Clark is a privateer under the employ of our Prador, and has been for 13 years, since his official pardoning. He spent, in his younger years, time in the Navy, but I know little of it, for he refused to go into any detail in his interview. He deserted the Navy after reaching admiral rank in record time, and turned to acts of piracy. Simon howls in outrage. Piracy? We'll not be hiring the likes of that. The man has been pardoned and honest for 13 years, Quince protests. Dr. Oswald loses interest just as quickly. He sets down the paper in his hand. I like Argus Matteson. His qualifications are very reassuring. Some chatter comes from the Auquians. I glance over my shoulder to see them approaching. Rootwig is still dragging along her netted glass ball. Samuel Wicker has a marvelous reputation, Simon comments, and I'd place my interest in him. In the case that my opinion in any way matters, I voice agreement for Dr. Oswald's choice. Rootwig hisses. Fenchy tells us no. Simon smugly grins. Samuel Wicker it is! Fenchy proceeds to tell him no, too. We all frown. Harbour Master Quince's lips part slightly, and his brows draw together in confusion. But I have no interest in explaining a thing to him. Simon's not kind enough, and I think Dr. Oswald wants to keep it all between us anyways. Simon begins to blather on to Dr. Oswald about how the opinions of the Auquians don't mean anything, but is silenced by the raised hand and stern eyes of the doctor, firmly convinced otherwise. Fenchy drops Hank Clark's paper into his hands. "This one." Simon hasted to stand up and pace with distress, fingers clawing in his oiled hair. I'm not for it either, exactly. But Clark, former pirate or not, had seemed like a good option when Quince had given us his overview. He was a reasonable selection, despite his record. Dr. Oswald slides the paper over the desk, towards the harbormaster. "How can I contact this man?" "You can't be serious," Simon gasps, hand flinging down from his head to his knees. He drags them down his face, head shaking. "And presumably I'll be needing to purchase a ship suitable for the voyage as well." That settles it. We take the contact information in and prepare to meet our likely captain that very same evening. Dr. Oswald places a faith payment on a newly built brigantine, Orpheus, and we, apparently now taking all advice from our peculiar Auquian acquaintances, are well into the no-turning-back part of preparations. According to Dr. Oswald, we'd be at sea in 2 weeks at the most, and not a soul would keep us.